Skip, gets more confusing for me by the moment. Now, Lamar Jackson, Ozzie Newsome, his last year's general manager, Skip, traded back into the first round to select Lamar Jackson with the 32nd overall pick. Now, in his first 9 games, he had about a little less than 10 snaps a game. He threw the ball 11 total times in those 9 games. He ran it for an average of 3 times per game. But here's where the difference is, Skip. Wentz and Flacco aren't the same. Flacco was 33 years of age, Skip. He had the 22nd ranked QBR in 2017, 19th in 2016, 25th in 2015. He was going off a cliff. Carson Wentz is 27. You just gave him $100+ million, and he got you in the playoffs when everybody around him. He got you to the playoffs basically with practice squad players playing wide receiver and a patchwork offensive line. This is not a similar situation. Now, you can try and make it like that because Marty was there and they did implement a style, but until Greg Roman came in and took it over and then revamped it and made it basically Lamar Jackson eccentric. But, Skip, this seems like a very, very different situation to me. Now, I get it, trying to find ways to get him on the field, but they were trying to find ways because they were going to replace Joe Flacco with Lamar Jackson. Is that what you're saying? That you're looking to replace Carson Wentz with Jalen Hurts? This is becoming more and more confusing to me, Skip, and I believe they created a situation that they did not need to create.
I agree with every point you just made. I've told you before, since I was a little kid, I've hated the Philadelphia Eagles. I love Jalen Hurts. I hate it that Jalen Hurts got drafted by the Eagles into this predicament of a situation. I hate it for both quarterbacks. I believe that as we speak, somewhere Carson Wentz is grinding his teeth over these latest remarks that came out yesterday from his head coach, Doug Peterson. I believe that Jalen Hurts is rolling his eyes over these latest remarks because I told you before the draft, Jalen Hurts is fully capable of being a starting quarterback for a playoff team in the National Football League. That's how much I believe in his arm and his legs and his leadership intangibles, his killer will. He's got one. And I've also told you from the start, as much as you love walk it to him Wentz, I like him, I respect him, but I've never been completely sold on him because I'm just not sure about his poise, his command, his consistent accuracy, and his leadership intangibles. So all of a sudden, you're telling me that the same Marty Morningweg, who is now your key advisor to your offense, gave you the same pre-draft input on Jalen that he was giving Ozzie on Lamar before the draft that you just talked about, that Ozzie Newsome traded up to snatch Lamar. Okay, so it was Marty as the coordinator in Baltimore who implemented that system that got rookie Lamar Jackson 10 snaps a game. They were already starting to be done with Flacco, and again, he's the weirdest quarterback in the history of the National Football League. He has all-time great, does Joe Flacco, postseason stats. He won a Super Bowl. He won MVP. Can't take it away. But to your point, as I used to call him during the regular season, he was fluko because all the playoff stuff seemed like fluke-ish when it came to trying to get you back to the playoffs in the regular season. So now are you telling me that they're going to use Jalen the same way? So it'll start out with 10 snaps, 10 snaps, 10 snaps. Are you telling me that Carson Wentz is now a candidate to get Flacco'd? Are you trying to tell me that you don't quite believe in him to the point that you're going to give Jalen a chance 2/3 of the way through the year to maybe beat him out? And Shannon, I remind you what Donovan McNabb said a couple of weeks back, and he should know, he was a longtime star quarterback for the Eagles. he said this is so unfair to Carson Wentz because, as I'm paraphrasing the way Donovan said it, but he said, Philly fans, Jalen's going to go in and make a play here, make a play there, and they're going to start rooting for Jalen. They always root for the backup quarterback in any city, but especially in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And if Carson throws a pick here, or as we know he's wont to do, loses a sack fumble here or there, all of a sudden they're going to say, we want to see some more Jalen Hurts. Give us Hurts, give us Hurts, give us more Hurts. And it's going to be damaging to Carson Wentz's psyche. He still hasn't proven anything because Shannon, as we talked about, he lasted, like 2 series against Seattle in his first ever playoff game last year. What did he do? Go 1 for 3 for 4 yards? So he's got 1 completion to his name in the postseason, and now he's got a second-round pick who had sensational stats, the 3rd best QBR last year to obviously Tua and Burrow, and scored 52 total touchdowns for Oklahoma and beat Baylor on the road and then beat Baylor in the championship game. How Matt Rule got a job off that, I don't know. That's a story for another day. But again, Jalen Hurts led them to the game against LSU in which Joe Burrow just annihilated my Sooners. But Jalen Hurts can play. They know he can play, and they're going to try to weave him into the flow the way Taysom Hill played 23% of the snaps last year in New Orleans. That's a lot, 23% of the quarterback snaps. He's in the game. Well, you know why that is? Because clearly Drew Brees is on the way out. I'm pretty sure this is going to be Drew's last year. I don't know that for a fact, but it feels like it. Sean Payton sort of let the cat out of the bag a month or so ago when he let that slip that it would be Drew's last season. But we just talked about those Pro Football Focus deep throws, the rankings. Drew Brees is 22nd. It's now like he has to get a running start and wind up to throw a deep ball. So it's clear that they're getting, they're going more and more to the playmaker, Taysom Hill, at quarterback. And yet now Jameis is the backup, just as the way Teddy Bridgewater. So when it's time to replace the starting quarterback, Sean Payton still goes to Jameis as he went to Bridgewater last year for those games. But to spark it, to make plays, to create splash plays, you want Taysom Hill, and now Doug Peterson wants Jalen Hurts. Very different situation. And I told you, it's making me feel sorry for both quarterbacks, especially Carson Wentz. This is not fair to him, and it does not bode well for him this year. The pressure is going to be times 10 on him to try to overcome that specter on the sideline that is going to be Jalen Hurts.